This video reflects opinion and commentary based on publicly available information. Alright, stop everything, because what unfolded in that London courtroom was not dignity, not justice, not some noble stand against the press. It was chaos, absolute chaos. Prince Harry didn't just walk into court this week, he stormed in, emotionally, mentally, and frankly, strategically unprepared. And when a judge has to step in and issue a stern warning, when your own legal team quietly packs up their briefcases and walks away, that's not courage, that's a full-blown meltdown playing out in public. Let's be clear from the start. This wasn't Harry calmly defending principle. This was Harry unraveling. And the optics? Brutal. Because courts don't care about feelings, trauma narratives, or Netflix edits. They care about facts, evidence, consistency. And what we're watching right now is a case collapsing under the weight of its own contradictions. So here's the setup. Harry has spent years positioning himself as the ultimate victim of the British press, the crusader, the man willing to take on the tabloids when no one else would. He's framed this legal battle as a moral war, good versus evil, truth versus corruption, poor Harry versus the big bad media machine. Sounds heroic, right? Except once the courtroom doors closed, that carefully crafted story started to fall apart piece by piece. Because here's the problem with turning personal grievances into legal arguments. Once you're under oath, vibes don't matter, your feelings don't matter, and your version of events doesn't matter unless it's backed up by evidence. And that's exactly where things started going sideways. Early in the proceedings, Harry's accusations came out swinging. Illegal tactics, conspiracies, journalists painted as shadowy villains lurking in the background of his life. But then the defense did something devastatingly effective. They slowed everything down. They asked questions, they brought context, and suddenly the black and white narrative Harry's been selling turned very, very gray. Take the journalists at the center of his claims. In Harry's telling, they're intrusive operators crossing legal lines. In the defense's version, and this is crucial, they're established professionals who interacted with Harry openly, socially, even cordially. Not spies, not criminals. People he knew, people he invited into his orbit. And that's when the judge had to rein things in, because accusing named individuals of criminal conduct is not a game. Courts don't tolerate emotional grandstanding when reputations are on the line. The warning wasn't subtle. It was a reminder: stick to provable facts or you're gonna make this worse for yourself. And right on cue, something extraordinary happened. Members of Harry's legal team quit. Not reshuffled, not reassigned, quit. Walked away. And if you think that's normal in the middle of a high-profile case, it's not. Lawyers don't abandon ship unless they believe the ship is already sinking. That's the part people need to sit with. Legal teams are paid to defend clients, even unpopular ones. They tolerate stress. They tolerate criticism. What they don't tolerate is a client whose instructions put them at professional risk. When lawyers step back, it's usually because the strategy is unsustainable or the client refuses to listen. And that's the picture forming here. Harry pushing forward emotionally, determined to win a moral argument, while the legal framework underneath him collapses. You can't litigate vibes, you can't sue on feelings, and you definitely can't accuse people of crimes without airtight proof and expect the court to nod along. Meanwhile, look at Harry himself in court. Gone is the defiant rebel prince. Gone is the confident campaigner. What we're seeing instead is exhaustion. A man carrying years of resentment, now forced to defend it line by line under scrutiny. The cameras caught it. The press gallery felt it. This wasn't a warrior for justice. This was someone watching his own narrative being dismantled in real time. And the irony? Overwhelming. This is the man who said he wanted privacy, who claimed the press ruined his life by watching too closely, and now he's seated in a courtroom, under a microscope, reliving every detail he claims he wanted buried. Every glance, every reaction, every inconsistency broadcast worldwide. Contrast that with the rest of the royal family. William and Catherine didn't show up to courtrooms to rage at journalists. They didn't launch personal crusades. They understood something Harry still doesn't. The monarchy survives by restraint, by playing the long game, by not turning every slight into a public war. William faced the same press. Catherine endured years of invasive coverage, and yet they didn't implode. They didn't turn every grievance into a lawsuit. They kept moving forward. They focused on duty, on relevance, on stability, and that contrast is now impossible to ignore. Public reaction tells the story. Sympathy is evaporating. Even people who once supported Harry's stand against the tabloids are asking uncomfortable questions. If this is about justice, why does it feel so personal? If this is about reform, why does it look like revenge? And if this is about truth, why does it fall apart the moment it's challenged? Then there's the elephant in the room, Meghan's absence. For a couple that built an entire brand around togetherness, the silence is deafening. No hand-holding outside court, no supportive presence in the gallery, nothing. And whether that's strategic or personal, it sends a message. This is Harry's battle now, alone. And that matters, because Harry's post-royal identity has been built almost entirely on partnership. Joint interviews, joint deals, joint messaging. But when the legal stakes are highest, when the narrative is no longer controlled, he's standing there solo, facing the consequences of decisions years in the making. Zoom out, and the broader implications become clear. This case isn't just about tabloids, it's about relevance, power, influence. Harry tried to fight the media on his own terms, using publicity as leverage, but the courtroom stripped that away. In law, status doesn't protect you, fame doesn't impress anyone, and victimhood isn't a legal argument. What we're watching is a lesson in overreach, in believing your own hype, in mistaking public sympathy for institutional power. Harry assumed the moral high ground would carry him through. Instead, it's leaving him exposed. And here's the harsh truth. This didn't have to happen. He could have moved on, focused on charity, built a quieter life, let the tabloids fade into background noise. But he couldn't let go. He needed vindication. He needed to be right. And now that need is costing him credibility, allies, and potentially a fortune. The judge's warning wasn't just procedural, it was symbolic, a signal that this court is not interested in narratives, grudges, or emotional appeals, only evidence. And the longer this drags on, the clearer it becomes that Harry's strategy was built for television, not litigation. By the end of the day, the image was stark. A prince who wanted to expose the system, now trapped inside it. A man who thought publicity was power, discovering too late that accountability cuts both ways. This wasn't a triumph. It was a cautionary tale unfolding live. And whether you support Harry or not, one thing is undeniable. This case has changed how he's seen, not as a rebel hero, not as a wronged son, but as someone who couldn't distinguish between personal pain and public responsibility, between storytelling and truth. So now I want to hear from you. If you're watching from the UK or Australia, do you think this legal fight has gone too far? Has Harry lost the plot? Or is this still a necessary stand? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If you found this breakdown worth your time, give it a like, make sure you're subscribed, and share it with someone who's been following this saga, because this story is far from over, and the fallout is only just beginning.